The USS Defiant moved slowly through the darkness of space. Lieutenant Commander Alex Daniels stood by the large window at the front of the ship. His eyes were fixed on the massive alien ship ahead of them. It was at least 10 times bigger than their own vessel. The alien ship's surface gleamed with a strange metal that seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars. "All personnel to stations," Captain Samantha Miller's voice came over the speakers. "First contact in 5 minutes." Alex took a deep breath and straightened his blue uniform. He had trained for 15 years for moments like this, but nothing could truly prepare anyone for humanity's first meeting with an alien race. He walked quickly to the bridge where Captain Miller was giving final instructions to the crew. "Remember," she said, her voice calm but firm, "we are here as representatives of Earth. Our mission is peaceful. We show respect at all times." The bridge crew nodded. Their faces showed a mix of excitement and fear. Alex took his place at the weapons console. He hoped he wouldn't need to use it. "Incoming transmission," said the communications officer, a young woman named Kate Wilson. Her fingers moved quickly across her screen. "They're requesting visual contact," Captain Miller nodded. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life. The alien that appeared made several crew members gasp. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, with silvery skin that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Its head was longer than a human's, with 3 large eyes that glowed a soft purple. Where a human would have a mouth, this creature had what looked like small moving parts, almost like tiny mandibles. "I am Valorn, commander of the Kornathi Imperial Fleet," the alien said. The translator turned its clicks and hums into smooth English. "Why have you entered our space?" Captain Miller stepped forward. "I am Captain Samantha Miller, of the United Earth Space Force vessel Defiant. We come with peaceful intentions to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples." Valorn's 3 eyes blinked at different times. "Your kind has been detected at the edges of our territory for some time. We decided it was time to meet the neighbors." The alien's tone was hard to read through the translator, but there was something in it that made Alex uneasy. "We're pleased to make your acquaintance," Miller continued. "We propose a meeting to discuss—" Yes, Valorn interrupted. "A meeting. Your ship will dock with ours. You may bring 5 representatives, unarmed." Miller's expression didn't change, but Alex saw her shoulders tense slightly. "We would be happy to meet. However, our protocols require security personnel to carry standard sidearms." All 3 of Valorn's eyes narrowed at once. "You fear us?" "Not at all," Miller replied smoothly. "It's standard procedure." Valorn made a sound that the translator didn't catch. "Very well. Your toys are of no concern to us. You may keep them." The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a moment. "I don't like his tone," Kate said quietly. Miller turned to face her crew. "Neither do I, Lieutenant. But this is too important to let pride get in the way. Alex, you're with me. Kate, you too. Dr. Pete Johnson from Science and Security Chief. Greg Martinez will complete our team." Alex nodded. As the ship's second-in-command, he had expected to be chosen. An hour later, the 5 of them stood in the docking bay as the airlock connected the 2 ships. The sound of metal touching metal echoed through the chamber. "Remember," Miller said quietly, "we represent all of humanity today." The door slid open. 2 tall Kornathi stood waiting. They wore what appeared to be armor, though it looked more like liquid metal painted onto their bodies. Without speaking, they turned and began walking down a long corridor. The humans followed. The alien ship was nothing like the Defiant. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with soft light. The air felt thicker with a sweet smell that reminded Alex of summer flowers. He kept his hand near his sidearm, more from habit than fear. They entered a large room. In the center stood Valorn, surrounded by what looked like floating screens of light. He dismissed them with a wave of his 4-fingered hand. "Welcome to the Empress's glory," Valorn said, not bothering to face them fully. "Flagship of the Kornathi Empire's 7th Fleet." Miller stepped forward. "Thank you for having us aboard. We bring greetings from Earth and its colonies. Colonies, Valorn repeated, a strange clicking sound following the word. You have just begun to leave your home world. We have ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. Alex felt his chest tighten. This wasn't going as hoped. We're eager to learn about your civilization, Miller continued, her voice still friendly. Valorn finally turned to face them fully. Your civilization is barely worth our notice. You are like children playing with sticks and calling them swords. He walked closer to the humans, towering over even Greg, who was over 6 feet tall. We have been watching your transmissions. So much war among yourselves. So primitive. Miller kept her composure. We have our troubles, like any species, but we've grown beyond many of our past mistakes. Valorn made the clicking sound again. Alex was starting to think it might be laughter. One of the alien's hands moved to his belt and removed a small device. He pressed it, and a 3D image of Earth appeared between them. A beautiful world, Valorn said. Rich in resources our empire can use. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Miller's face hardened slightly. Earth is not available for resource extraction, she said firmly. Valorn's head tilted. You misunderstand, Captain. I was not asking permission. Dr. Johnson stepped forward. Surely there's room for discussion. There is nothing to discuss? Valorn cut him off. Your species has 2 choices. Serve the Empire as a protected territory or be removed. Miller's hands clenched into fists, but her voice remained steady. Those are not acceptable options, Commander Valorn. We came seeking friendship between equals. Equals? For the first time, the alien's voice showed clear emotion, surprise mixed with amusement. Look at you. Your ship is powered by simple fusion. Your weapons use chemical propellants and crude energy beams. Even the clothes you wear are made of dead plants and animal skins. Alex felt anger rising in his chest. The alien's arrogance was becoming harder to bear. Valorn continued, Your weapons are junk compared to what the youngest Kornathi child plays with. Your most advanced technology would make our historians laugh. Miller stepped closer to Valorn, showing no fear despite the size difference. Technology isn't everything, Commander. There's more to a civilization than its weapons. Valorn's mandibles clicked rapidly. Without power, all other virtues are meaningless. You will learn this soon. The Empire will arrive at your world in 30 days. Be ready to submit or face extinction. The 5 humans stood in shocked silence. This wasn't first contact. It was a declaration of war. This meeting is over, Valorn said, turning away. Return to your ship and deliver my message to your leaders. As they were escorted back to the airlock, Alex leaned close to Miller. Captain, what do we do now? Miller's face was grim. We prepare, and we find a way to show Commander Valorn that humans are not as weak as he thinks. As the Defiant pulled away from the massive alien vessel, Alex looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, unaware that everything had just changed. The coming days would test humanity like never before. The USS Defiant raced through space back toward Earth. Inside the ship, the mood was dark. Captain Miller had called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. All senior officers sat around the large table, faces serious. We have 28 days before the Kornathi fleet reaches Earth, Miller said. Her voice was steady, but Alex could see the worry in her eyes. We need to find a way to defend ourselves. Chief Engineer Paul Foster shook his head. Captain, from what we've seen of their technology, we don't stand a chance. Their ships are at least a century ahead of ours. Maybe more, Kate added. She tapped on her tablet and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the Kornathi ship they had just left. Their hull is made of an alloy we've never seen before. Their weapon systems generate 5 times the energy of ours. Alex leaned forward. So we're outmatched. That doesn't mean we give up. No. One is suggesting that, Commander, Miller said. But we need to be smart about this. We can't win a direct fight. Dr. Pete Johnson, the ship's science officer, had been quiet until now. There might be another way, he said softly. Everyone, turned to look at him. Every technology has limits. Every system has weaknesses. Kate nodded slowly. I've been studying the sensor readings we took while aboard their ship. There's something strange about their energy systems. They pulse. She adjusted the hologram to show a wave pattern. See, this? Their shields, their weapons, even their life support. They all run on the same energy signature. And it has a pattern. Security Chief Greg Martinez frowned. What kind of pattern? A cycle, Kate explained. Every 16 seconds the energy drops for just a tiny moment, less than a microsecond. You wouldn't notice it unless you were looking for it. Miller leaned closer to the display. And why would they design a system with that flaw? Paul snapped. His fingers. Efficiency. They're using a cyclic system. It's like turning off a light for a split second. The human eye doesn't notice, but you save energy over time. And when you're powering ships that size, even tiny savings add up. Dr. Johnson added. Alex felt a spark of hope for the first time since meeting Valorn. So there's a moment when their shields are down? Theoretically, Kate said, but it's such a small window I'm not sure how we could exploit it. We need to test it, Miller decided. But how? The room fell silent as everyone thought. Then, Greg spoke up. Valorn seemed pretty proud of their technology. Maybe we could use that. Alex looked at him. What are you thinking? A demonstration, Greg said. We challenge him to prove how superior their tech is. If we can get him to turn on a shield or weapon system, Kate can measure the pulse more accurately. Miller nodded slowly. It's risky, but it might work. She turned to Alex. Send a message to the Kornathi ship. Tell them we'd like to meet again to discuss terms of surrender. We need to buy time and get more information. Alex didn't like pretending to surrender, but he understood the plan. Yes, Captain. The next day they were back on the Kornathi ship. This time only Alex, Miller, and Kate came aboard. Valorn met them in what appeared to be his personal quarters. The room was filled with strange objects that looked like trophies from different worlds. So, Valorn said, his mandibles clicking in that way Alex now recognized as amusement. You have come to discuss terms. Wise decision. Miller nodded respectfully. We need to understand what becoming a protected territory would mean for Earth. While Miller kept Valorn talking, Kate quietly scanned the room with a device hidden in her sleeve. Alex watched Valorn carefully. The alien moved with a grace that seemed impossible for his size. Every gesture showed confidence. No, not just confidence. Arrogance. Your people will provide resources and labor, Valorn was saying. In return, you receive our protection and limited access to some of our technologies. What about our military? Alex asked. Would we be allowed to keep our ships, our weapons? Valorn made the clicking sound again. Your weapons? Why would you need such primitive tools? They would be like a child bringing a toy sword to a real battle. Alex felt his face grow warm. Our weapons have served us well enough. Against other humans, perhaps, Valorn said. He walked to a cabinet and removed what looked like a small disc. This is a personal shield generator, standard equipment for all Kornathi soldiers. He pressed it to his chest, where it seemed to melt into his armor. A faint shimmer surrounded him. Your most powerful handheld weapon cannot penetrate the shield. Kate's eyes widened slightly. She was getting readings from the shield. Alex needed to keep Valorn talking. That's impressive, Alex said. How does it work? Valorn waved dismissively. The science would be beyond your understanding. It creates an energy field that stops any projectile or energy beam your weapons could produce. Miller stepped forward. Would you be willing to demonstrate? It would help us understand the protection you're offering. Valorn seemed pleased by the request. A demonstration? Yes, I suppose that would help you accept your new place in the order of things. He led them to a large empty room that looked like a training area. Kate whispered to Alex as they walked, I'm getting clear readings on the pulse pattern. It's definitely there. In the training room, Valorn stood at one end. He activated his shield again. The shimmer around him was stronger now. Your weapons, please, he said, holding out his hand. Alex hesitated, then handed over his standard-issue laser pistol. Valorn examined it with three-eyed curiosity. Energy focused through artificial crystals, he muttered. How quaint. This would not harm a Kornathi child. He handed the weapon back. Fire at me. Full power. Alex looked at Miller, who gave a small nod. He aimed the pistol at Valorn's chest and fired. The red beam hit the shield and scattered harmlessly away. Valorn didn't even blink. Again, Alex fired 3 more times. Each shot was absorbed by the shield. Valorn looked bored. As I said, your weapons are junk compared to our technology. The alien turned to Miller. Now do you understand? Resistance would be pointless and wasteful. Miller's face gave nothing away. Very impressive, Commander. Thank you for the demonstration. As they walked back to the airlock, Kate whispered, I got it. The pulse is exactly 16.2 seconds apart. And there's something else. When the shield is hit, the cycle speeds up slightly. It's trying to compensate. Alex felt that spark of hope grow stronger. Maybe they had found a weakness after all. Back on the Defiant, Miller called another meeting. Kate shared her findings with the team. If we can hit the shield repeatedly, she explained, it forces the cycle to speed up. Eventually, the gap between pulses gets bigger to compensate, almost a full millisecond. That's still an incredibly small window, Paul said, shaking his head. But it's something, Alex insisted. If we know exactly when that gap will occur. Dr. Johnson had been working on his own tablet. He looked up. I think I can help with that. If we modify our weapons to fire in a synchronized pattern, we might be able to hit that gap. For the next week, the Defiant raced back toward Earth while the crew worked day and night. They needed to prepare Earth's defenses, but they also needed to test their theory. Kate and Dr. Johnson modified a set of weapons to target the pulse. Weakness. We need a test subject, Kate said, looking up from her work. Something with the same kind of shield technology. Alex nodded. I've been thinking about that. When we were on their ship, I saw smaller vessels in their landing bay. Scout ships, I think. We can't exactly go back and ask to borrow one, Greg pointed out. Miller, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. No, but according to their course, they'll be passing near the Neptune research station. They might send scouts ahead. Alex understood immediately. We set a trap. 3 days later, the Defiant waited in the shadow of Neptune's largest moon, Triton. Just as Miller had predicted, a small Kornathi scout ship appeared, heading toward the research station. They're scanning the station, Kate reported from her console. Probably gathering intelligence, Miller nodded. Prepare to engage. Remember, we need to capture the ship intact if possible. The Defiant powered up and moved out from behind Triton. The scout ship detected them immediately and turned to flee. They're fast, Greg said as the alien ship accelerated. We might not catch them. We don't need to catch them, Miller replied. Just slow them down. Target their engines, minimum power. The Defiant fired a warning shot. The scout ship veered and returned fire. Their weapons were smaller than the main ships but still powerful. The Defiant shook as energy blasts hit their shields. Shields at 60%, Kate called out. Their weapons are cutting through like butter. Alex gripped his chair. Time to test our theory. Fire the modified weapons. The Defiant launched a series of precisely timed shots. Most bounced off the scout ship's shields, but the 7th shot, timed exactly to hit during the predicted gap, struck the ship's engine. The scout ship spun wildly, leaking a strange blue energy from its damaged section. It wasn't destroyed, but it couldn't escape either. It worked, Alex whispered. It actually worked. Miller stood from her captain's chair, face determined. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found a weakness in Kornathi shield technology, and prepare to bring that scout ship aboard. We have a lot of work to do before the main fleet arrives. The captured Kornathi scout ship sat in the main hangar of the Earth Defense Station Alpha, surrounded by the best scientists and engineers humanity could gather. 15 days had passed since the Defiant's return to Earth. Time was running short. Alex walked through the busy hangar, nodding to the workers as he passed. Everyone moved with urgent purpose. The Coronati fleet was now just 2 weeks away, and Earth was preparing for war. Ships from every nation had gathered in a unified defense force. For once, all of humanity stood together. "Commander Daniels," a voice called. Alex turned to see Kate waving him over to a workstation near the alien ship. "Any progress?" he asked, joining her. Kate's eyes were red from lack of sleep. She had been working almost non-stop since they returned. "We've confirmed the shield. Weakness," she said. "The pulse pattern is consistent across all their technology." "That's good news," Alex said. "What about turning it into an advantage we can use?" Kate gestured to a group of engineers working on what looked like modified weapons. "We're adapting our existing arsenal to target the pulse gaps, but there's a problem." She lowered her voice. "The timing has to be perfect, down to the microsecond, and in battle conditions." Alex understood. In the chaos of combat, timing that precise would be nearly impossible to maintain. "What about their other systems?" he asked. "Engines, life support, all protected by the same shield technology," Kate replied. "But we did find something interesting." She led Alex to another workstation where Dr. Johnson was examining a piece of alien technology. "What have you got, Doctor?" Alex asked. Pete looked up, his eyes bright despite his obvious fatigue. "They're communication systems, Commander. They use a form of quantum entanglement we've only theorized about. Instant communication across any distance." Alex frowned. "That's impressive. But how does it help us?" "Because," Pete said with a small smile, "they use the same energy source for communications as they do for their shields and weapons, and when they're sending large data packets, the shields draw less power." Kate picked up the explanation. "Which means the pulse gap gets even larger, almost 3 milliseconds. For the first time in days, Alex felt real hope. "So if we could force them to use their communication systems at full capacity, their shields would be more vulnerable," Kate finished. "Exactly." Alex turned as Captain Miller entered the hangar. She had been in constant meetings with Earth's leaders since their return. The stress showed on her face, but her eyes were as determined as ever. "Captain," Alex greeted her. "Kate and Dr. Johnson have found another weakness." Miller listened as they explained the communication system connection. When they finished, she nodded slowly. "Good work. But how do we force them to use their communications?" "A virus," came a new voice. They turned to see Paul Foster approaching, tablet in hand. "We've been studying their computer systems from the scout ship. They're advanced, but not invulnerable. If we could introduce a virus that forces their systems to send massive data streams..." "Could we do that without physical access to their ship?" and Miller asked. Paul hesitated. "That's the hard part. We'd need to get someone on board their main vessel again." The group fell silent. Getting back onto Valorn's ship seemed impossible. The element of surprise was gone. Alex's mind raced. What if we surrendered? Everyone stared at him. Miller raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "Not a real surrender," Alex clarified quickly. "But what if we pretended to accept their terms? Asked for a final meeting to discuss details? They're so confident in their superiority, they might allow it." Miller considered this. Valorn's pride might make him agree, but it's extremely risky. "We're running out of options, Captain," Kate said quietly. "The fleet will be here in 14 days. Miller was silent for a long moment. Then she straightened her shoulders. "I'll take it to the Defense Council. In the meantime, continue working on the weapons modifications in this virus. We need everything ready." 3 days later, Alex found himself back in a shuttle approaching the Coronati fleet. This time, the massive ships were just outside Mars' orbit. Earth was clearly visible in the distance, a blue jewel in the blackness of space. Beside him sat Miller, Kate, and Paul. Each had a specific role in the mission. Kate and Paul carried hidden devices that would plant the virus in the Coronati systems. Alex and Miller would keep Valorn distracted. "Remember," Miller said softly as they approached, "the virus needs at least 5 minutes to fully upload and spread through their systems. Keep Valorn talking as long as possible." Alex nodded. His hand rested near his weapon, a specially modified pistol that looked standard but had been precisely calibrated to fire during shield pulse gaps. It was a last resort. If things went wrong, they probably wouldn't make it off the ship alive. Thu. Shuttle docked with Valorn's flagship. When the airlock opened, 4 Kornathi guards waited for them. Without a word, the aliens led them through the corridors. Alex noticed more activity than during their previous visit. The ship was preparing for battle. Valorn received them in a large command center. Dozens of Kornathi officers worked at stations around the room. Holographic displays showed Earth's defenses. Alex tried not to look too closely at the information they had gathered. Captain Miller, Valorn greeted them, mandibles clicking. I was surprised by your message. After our last meeting, I expected only defiance from humans. Miller stepped forward. Commander Valorn, after careful consideration, Earth's leaders have decided that resistance would cause unnecessary suffering. We wish to discuss terms of surrender. Valorn's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. Wise decision. Though I admit I'm somewhat disappointed. I expected more fight from your species. While Miller engaged Valorn in discussion, Kate and Paul moved casually around the room. To the Kornathi, they appeared to be examining the technology with awe and deference. In reality, they were placing tiny devices on key consoles. Each device contained the virus that would force the Kornathi communication systems into overdrive. Our main concern, Miller was saying, is the preservation of human culture. We may be technologically inferior, but our art, music, and literature are valuable. Valorn made a dismissive gesture. Yes, yes. The conquered always believe their culture is special. You may keep your songs and stories as long as they don't encourage resistance. Alex noticed Kate give a small nod. The first device was in place. He needed to keep the conversation going. Commander, he said, stepping forward. What can you tell us about the history of the Kornathi Empire? How many other species have joined your protection? Valorn seemed pleased by the question. Like most conquerors, he enjoyed talking about his empire's achievements. As he launched into a lengthy history, Alex saw Paul place the second device. 2 down, 1 to go. And that was merely the beginning, Valorn was saying. The Zentari thought their crystal technology was superior. Much as you believe in your nuclear fusion, they lasted 3 days. Impressive, Miller said, her face showing appropriate awe. And how do you maintain control over so many worlds? This question led to another long explanation of Kornathi governance. Alex watched as Kate moved toward the central console, the most important target for their virus. She was almost there when a Kornathi officer stepped into her path. This area is restricted, the officer said, mandibles clicking aggressively. Kate stepped back, eyes wide with fake fear. I'm sorry, I was just admiring your technology. The officer moved closer to her. What is that device in your hand? Alex's heart raced. They had been discovered. His hand moved toward his modified weapon. Miller caught his eye and gave a tiny shake of her head. Not yet. This? Kate held up what looked like a small scanner. It's just a translation device. We're still learning your language. The officer didn't appear convinced. He reached for Kate's arm. At that moment, Paul bumped into a console accidentally, causing a small alarm to sound. All eyes turned to him. My apologies, Paul said quickly. Your technology is so advanced, I'm afraid I don't know how to properly interact with it. The distraction worked. While the officer went to check the console Paul had touched, Kate quickly placed the final device. She gave Alex and Miller a small nod. All 3 devices were in place. Perhaps this tour has gone on long enough, Valorn said, his tone showing irritation for the first time. Let us return to the matter of your surrender, Miller nodded respectfully. Of course, Commander. We have prepared a document outlining our proposed terms. She removed a tablet from her pocket and offered it to Valorn. The alien took it with a look that might have been amusement. Your proposed terms? You misunderstand the situation, Captain. You do not propose terms. You accept ours. Of course. Miller said smoothly. But we hoped you might consider certain requests. Nothing that would inconvenience the Empire, naturally. Valorn began reading the document. As he did, Alex saw a small light on Kate's sleeve turn from red to green. The virus had activated. Now they needed to keep Valorn talking for 5 more minutes. These requests are mostly reasonable, Valorn said after a moment. Though your desire to maintain independent military forces is laughable. Why would you need weapons when you have our protection? Old habits, Miller said with a small smile. Humans have always defended themselves. It's hard to change overnight. The command center fell silent at Alex's words. Captain Miller stepped forward, concern clear on her face. Alex, this is a suicide mission, she said quietly. We can find another way. Alex shook his head. There isn't time, Captain. The Kornathi are breaking through our defenses. Someone has to do this. Admiral Peterson studied Alex's face, then gave a slow nod. The commander is right. This may be our only chance. He turned to his communications officer. Contact Defense Station Alpha. Tell them to prepare the scout ship for immediate launch. Kate grabbed Alex's arm as he turned to leave. Let me go with you, she said, her voice low and urgent. You'll need help to modify the self-destruct system. No, Alex said firmly. You're needed here. You understand the Kornathi technology better than anyone. If this doesn't work, you'll need to find another weakness. Miller stepped between them. We'll continue this discussion on the way to the station. We're all going. She looked at the Admiral. With your permission, sir. The Admiral nodded. Go. We'll keep the Kornathi occupied as long as we can. 20 minutes later, a shuttle docked with Defense Station Alpha. The station was on high alert, its weapons firing constantly at the approaching enemy ships. Through the viewport, Alex could see Earth below them, still peaceful and blue, unaware of the battle raging in orbit. The station's chief engineer, Sam Harris, met them at the airlock. The scout ship is ready in Bay 3, he said, leading them through the corridors. We've kept it powered down since you captured it. In the hangar bay, the small Kornathi scout ship sat alone. Its sleek silver hull contrasted sharply with the bulkier human vessels around it. A team of engineers was already working inside, trying to understand its systems. Clear the ship, Miller ordered. We need to work quickly. As the engineers filed out, Paul Foster appeared from inside the vessel. Captain, he greeted Miller. I was hoping you'd come. I've been studying the self-destruct mechanism. And? Miller asked. Paul's tired face showed a glimmer of excitement. It's actually perfect for what we need. The system is designed to prevent capture by overloading the main power core. But I think we can modify it to create a larger pulse wave that would affect any Kornathi technology in range. How large a range? Alex asked. If we can get it close to Valorn's flagship, Paul said, the pulse should disable every ship in the main battle group for at least a few minutes. Kate moved to a computer terminal and began typing rapidly. A few minutes might be enough. If the Kornathi can't raise their shields, our weapons would tear through their hulls, Miller finished. It could turn the tide of the battle. They spent the next hour modifying the scout ship systems. Paul and Kate worked on the self-destruct mechanism, while Alex familiarized himself with the alien controls. The ship was designed for Kornathi pilots, with interfaces meant for their three-eyed vision and four-fingered hands, but Alex was a quick learner. The timer is set, Paul announced finally. Once activated, you'll have 3 minutes to get clear before detonation. Alex nodded, but everyone knew the truth. There would be no getting clear. The ship needed to be piloted directly into the heart of the Kornathi fleet to be effective. Miller pulled Alex aside while the others made final preparations. You don't have to do this, she said. We could try to program an automated flight path. The Kornathi would detect that immediately, Alex replied. This needs a human touch, unpredictability. He managed a small smile. Besides, someone needs to see Valorn's face when his superior technology fails. Miller placed a hand on his shoulder. It's been an honor serving with you, Commander Daniels. The honor was mine, Captain. Alex saluted, then turned to the others. Time to go. The fleet can't hold much longer. Kate approached him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I've adjusted the shields to mask your approach," she said, her voice professional despite her emotions. "They should read you as one of their own ships returning from battle." "Good thinking," Alex said. He hesitated, then added softly, "Take care of yourself, Lieutenant." Kate surprised him by pulling him into a quick hug. "Give them hell, Commander." With final goodbyes said, Alex climbed into the scout ship. The interior was cramped for a human, designed for the taller, thinner Kornathi physiology. He settled into the pilot's seat and powered up the engines. "Hangar doors opening," came Sam's voice over the comm. "Good luck, Commander." The small scout ship lifted off and moved toward the open hangar doors. Through the viewport, Alex could see the battle raging outside. Human and Kornathi ships exchanged fire against the backdrop of Earth. Several human vessels were already drifting, damaged, or destroyed. "This is Commander Daniels," Alex said into the comm. "I'm launching now. All human ships be prepared to press the attack when the Kornathi defenses go down." Admiral Peterson's voice came back. "Understood, Commander. Good hunting." The scout ship cleared the station and accelerated toward the Kornathi fleet. Alex kept his course erratic, as if he were a damaged Kornathi vessel returning from the front lines. Kate's modifications to the shield seemed to be working. No enemy ships moved to intercept him. As he approached the main battle group, Alex could see Valorn's flagship at the center, a massive vessel at least 5 times the size of Earth's largest ship. Energy beams and missiles flashed from its weapons arrays, devastating the human defenses. Alex's hands tightened on the controls. That was his target. "Entering targeting range in 30 seconds, he reported. "Stand by for pulse wave." "All ships," came Admiral Peterson's voice. "Prepare to attack on my mark after the pulse." Alex guided the scout ship closer to the flagship, trying to look like just another returning vessel. 20 seconds to range. 15. 10. Suddenly a warning sound filled the cockpit. He'd been detected. Energy weapons from the flagship began, targeting his ship. "They've spotted me," Alex reported. Going to full speed, he pushed the scout ship's engines to maximum, hurtling toward the flagship. The first enemy shots missed. The second glanced off his shields. The third struck directly, damaging one engine. The scout ship spun, but Alex fought for control. "Still on course," he gritted out. 5 seconds to range. Through the viewport, he could see the flagship growing larger. He was going to hit it directly. "Perfect." "Activating pulse now," Alex said. His finger pressed the modified self-destruct sequence. "It's been an honor serving with you all." For Earth, the scout ship's power core began to overload, energy readings spiking beyond their designed limits. As Alex approached the flagship's command section, he caught a glimpse through a viewport, Valorn standing at a control console, 3 eyes widening in surprise. Alex smiled. "Your weapons are junk, huh? Let's see about that." The scout ship collided with the flagship's hull just as the modified self-destruct system reached critical mass. Instead of simply exploding, the ship released a massive energy pulse that spread outward in a wave. The pulse passed harmlessly through human ships but disrupted every piece of Kornathi technology it touched. On the Defender's bridge, Kate watched her sensor readings in amazement. It worked. All Kornathi vessels are experiencing shield and weapons failure. Admiral Peterson didn't waste a second. "All ships attack now. Concentrate fire on their engines and weapon systems." The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. For the first time in the battle, every shot hit its mark. Without shields, the Kornathi ships were suddenly vulnerable. Even their massive flagship sustained heavy damage as multiple human vessels targeted it simultaneously. Captain Miller stared at the tactical display, watching as the tide of battle shifted dramatically. "He did it," she whispered. "Alex did it." The Kornathi fleet, caught completely off guard by the sudden failure of their technology, fell into disarray. Ships collided in the confusion. Others tried to retreat, only to find their engines unresponsive. "How long will the effect last?" Admiral Peterson asked. Kate checked her readings. "The pulse is already dissipating. I'd estimate they'll have partial systems back online in 3 to 5 minutes." Then we make those minutes count, the Admiral replied. All ships, target their capital vessels first. Focus on Valorn's flagship, the E. Human fleet pressed the attack with everything they had. Ships that had been on the verge of retreat now charged forward, seizing this unexpected advantage. Missiles struck Kornathi hulls. Energy weapons cut through previously impenetrable armor. On the Defender's bridge, a cheer went up as one of the largest Kornathi vessels exploded. Then another. The flagship was listing badly. Multiple fires visible along its hull. Incoming. Transmission, the communications officer announced suddenly, from the Kornathi flagship. Admiral Peterson nodded. On screen, Valorn's face appeared. The alien commander looked different now, his silvery skin marred with dark burns, one of his 3 eyes damaged and closed. The arrogance was gone from his posture. This is Commander Valorn of the Kornathi Imperial Fleet, he said, his voice strained even through the translator. I request a temporary cessation of hostilities. Admiral Peterson's face remained impassive. You came to our home and threatened extinction, Commander. Why should we grant you any mercy? Because continued fighting benefits neither of us, Valorn replied. You have surprised us. This does not happen often to the Kornathi. Miller stepped forward. Admiral, may I? 6 months had passed since the Battle of Earth. The planet had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Nations that had feuded for centuries now worked together, united by the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. The captured Kornathi technology had accelerated human development by decades, perhaps centuries. Captain Samantha Miller stood in the memorial garden outside the newly constructed United Earth Defense Headquarters. A simple stone monument bore the names of those lost in the battle. Her fingers traced one name in particular, Lieutenant Commander Alexander Daniels. I thought I might find you here, a familiar voice said. Miller turned to see Kate Wilson approaching. The young lieutenant had been promoted to commander after the battle, taking over Alex's former position. She looked different now, more confident, her stance that of someone who had faced the worst and survived. Just paying my respects, Miller replied. Today would have been his birthday. Kate nodded, standing beside her captain in respectful silence. After a moment, she spoke again. The Pathfinder is ready for its maiden voyage. Admiral Peterson has requested that you take command. Miller smiled slightly. The Pathfinder was humanity's first true deep space exploration vessel, built using a combination of human ingenuity and adapted Kornathi technology. It represented the next step in humanity's journey to the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers. I told him I'd think about it, Miller said. It's a big responsibility. The crew would follow you anywhere, Kate said. Me included. Miller turned to look at her. You've been offered the position of first officer. Are you going to accept? Kate nodded. I already have. Someone needs to carry on what Alex started. He believed humans belonged among the stars. They began walking through the garden, toward the massive headquarters building that symbolized Earth's new unified purpose. Around them, officers and civilians from nations around the world worked together, preparing for whatever the universe might bring next. Any word from the Kornathi? Miller asked as they walked. Kate shook her head. Nothing direct. Our long-range sensors have detected their ships near the edge of our solar system, but they've made no attempt to approach. I think they're still watching us, trying to figure out how they misjudged us so badly. Valorn's pride was wounded, Miller said. The Kornathi Empire isn't used to retreat. Do you think they'll come back? Kate asked. Miller considered this. Eventually, yes, but not as conquerors. Next time, I think they'll come seeking to understand us better. They entered the headquarters building, passing through security and into the central atrium. The space was dominated by a massive holographic display of known space with Earth at the center. The regions beyond human exploration were marked, in shadow, waiting to be discovered. Paul Foster was waiting for them near the display, tablet in hand as always. The engineer had been appointed head of the Kornathi Technology Integration Project, responsible for adapting alien systems for human use. Captain, Commander, he greeted them with a smile. I have something to show you. He led them to a secure laboratory deep within the building. Inside, a team of scientists worked around what appeared to be a partially disassembled Kornathi communication device. We've finally cracked their quantum entanglement system, Paul explained, his face alight with enthusiasm. With this, we can establish instant communication across any distance. No more delays for ships exploring deep space. That's impressive, Miller acknowledged. How soon can it be installed on the Pathfinder? 2 weeks, maybe less, Paul replied. But that's not all. He led them to another section of the lab, where a familiar object sat on a workbench, a Kornathi personal shield generator. We've modified this to work with human physiology, and we've eliminated the pulse weakness. Kate picked up the small disc, turning it over in her hands. So our shields won't have the same vulnerability theirs did? Paul nodded. Exactly. We learned from their mistakes. Miller smiled. This was humanity at its best. Learning, adapting, improving. Good work, Paul. Make sure these systems are ready for the Pathfinder's launch. As they left the lab, Miller's communicator beeped. Admiral Peterson's voice came through. Captain, please report to Command Center 1 immediately. We've detected something unusual at the edge of the solar system. Miller and Kate exchanged a glance before hurrying to the nearest elevator. Command Center 1 was the heart of Earth's defensive network, monitoring all activity in and around the solar system. When they arrived, Admiral Peterson was standing before a large tactical display. His face was grim but controlled. What's the situation, Admiral? Miller asked as they approached. Peterson gestured to the display. A ship just entered the solar system. Not Kornathi. The display zoomed in on a vessel unlike anything they had seen before. Where Kornathi ships were sleek and predatory, this one was bulbous and asymmetrical, almost organic in appearance. First contact with a new species? Kate asked, studying the strange vessel. It appears so, Peterson replied. They're broadcasting on all frequencies using a simple mathematical sequence as a universal greeting. Miller felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Another alien species so soon after the Kornathi. Was this one friendly, or another potential threat? They're requesting communication with Earth's leaders, Peterson continued, and specifically they asked for the humans who defeated the Kornathi. Miller raised an eyebrow. They know about the battle? Apparently news travels even in space, Peterson said with a hint of a smile. The Pathfinder's maiden voyage may have just changed its first mission. 3 days later, Miller stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder as it moved through space, toward the waiting alien vessel. The ship was everything she could have hoped for, the best of human design enhanced by carefully integrated Kornathi technology. Kate stood at her station, monitoring the alien ship. No change in their position, Captain. They're maintaining orbit near Jupiter as agreed. Any weapon signatures? Miller asked. None that we can detect, Kate replied. Though their technology is different enough from ours that I can't be entirely certain. Miller nodded. They were proceeding with caution, as they should. The lesson of the Kornathi was still fresh in everyone's mind. Never assume, never underestimate. We're in communication range, the officer at the comm station reported. Miller straightened her uniform. Open a channel. The main view screen activated, revealing the bridge of the alien vessel. The beings that appeared were nothing like the Kornathi. Where Valorn's people had been tall and insect-like, these creatures were shorter than humans, with smooth blue skin and large, expressive eyes. They had no visible mouth, yet somehow their words came through clearly. Greetings, humans of Earth, the lead alien said. I am Nexar, ambassador of the Galactic Confederation. We have come in peace and friendship. Miller stepped forward. I am Captain Samantha Miller of the United Earth vessel Pathfinder. We welcome you to our solar system and return your greeting of peace. Nexar's large eyes blinked slowly. We have heard of your encounter with the Kornathi Empire. It is most impressive. Few species have stood against them and prevailed. We were fighting for our survival. Miller replied simply. Indeed, Nexar said. And that is precisely why I have come. The Confederation monitors emerging species throughout the galaxy. Those who show promise, courage, innovation, the capacity for growth, are offered membership. Miller tried to hide her surprise. A galactic confederation? The implications were staggering. You're saying there are many other intelligent species out there? Hundreds, Nexar confirmed. Each with their own strengths and perspectives. The Kornathi are but one empire among many powers in the galaxy. They prefer conquest, we prefer cooperation. Kate stepped forward. And you believe humans qualify for this membership? Nexar's body shifted in what might have been a gesture of affirmation. Your defeat of the Kornathi brought you to our attention, a young species with crude technology, yet you prevailed through ingenuity and determination. These are qualities the Confederation values. Miller considered this carefully. What would membership entail? Exchange of knowledge, mutual defense, cultural sharing, Nexar explained. We do not seek to control or change you, merely to welcome you into a larger community. The choice, of course, is yours. Miller looked around at her crew. This was beyond anything they had expected when launching the Pathfinder. What had begun as exploration had suddenly become diplomacy of the highest order. Ambassador Nexar, she said at last, we are honored by your offer. However, such a decision must be made by all of Earth's people, not just me. Of course, Nexar replied. We anticipated this. We are prepared to send representatives to Earth to meet with your leaders, to demonstrate our goodwill. Miller nodded. That would be acceptable. I'll inform Earth Command immediately. As communications ended and preparations began for the first delegation from the Galactic Confederation to visit Earth, Miller found a quiet moment alone in her ready room. On her desk sat a small framed photo, Alex Daniels on the day of his promotion to lieutenant commander, smiling at the camera with all the enthusiasm of someone who believed in humanity's future among the stars. You were right, Alex, she said softly to the picture. There's so much more out there than we imagined.